Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another edition of Chopping It Up with Ramel. No notes, straight from the throat. Hey, first, before we get started, I just want to, listen, I want to thank everybody for your overwhelming support yesterday. My family and I was truly overwhelmed, and we felt blessed by the support that we received. Your words meant a lot to friends, family, acquaintances. The list goes on, but yeah, we just want to say thanks. I appreciate it and thank you. Listen, let's get right to it. As the playoffs begin to dwindle down, teams loses and now you have less games and less teams around. Listen, you can't ask for a better Final Four, except for if your team was left out. Pittsburgh and New England, that's going to be a great game, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, that's going to be a great game, guys. And right as I speak right now, I'm going with Pittsburgh Steelers to go into Foxborough and pull off the upset. I just think that they're playing well. Bell is going to be a problem for 49ers. This is not one of those games where Brady will have a overwhelming favorable matchup. I think that Big Ben is just as clutch as Brady. No, he's not Brady. Don't get me wrong. But this time of the year, hey, Big Ben got two Super Bowl wins. It's not like he's a stranger to this territory. He's been there before. He's a clutch player. Antonio Brown, you can make the case that he's the best wide receiver in the game. And you can clearly make the case that Bell is the best running back in the game. And the two of them are playing like they are the best at their positions right now. New England, don't get me wrong, Bill Belichick is going to be well prepared for this game. He's going to have his guys going. Brady, he looks for these moments. But I just think Pittsburgh is going to outdo him. I think Pittsburgh is the hottest team in the AFC. And I think that they're going to make their way to the Super Bowl. Should be a good game. I like it to be somewhere around 27-24, 24-21. I don't see it getting past the 30s. I think comfortable in the 20s. Very close game. I think it'll be less than a touchdown. But it should be a fun game to watch. All right. On the other side of the ledger, that's where it gets a little interesting. As you guys know, I had made my prediction. I thought that Dallas was going to win it all. Now that Green Bay has upset Dallas in Dallas, they are clearly the hottest team in football, going up against some may think is the best team in football. I don't know about that, but the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons, let me tell you something about them. They perhaps have the best offense in the game. They have a combination of Coleman and Freeman getting it done in the backfield. Julio Jones, he can make a case when healthy is the best receiver in the game. We don't know how this turf toe is going to affect him. Will he be 100%? Will he be 90%? But will he be ready to go? I don't see him missing this game. And Matty Ice has returned this season. He's looking like the MVP candidate that many people believe. He's performing on that level. Him going up against Rodgers. I'm not one of those that think Rodgers is the GOAT or the best ever. But he played like one this past weekend. I gotta give him credit. He played like a star. But this one should be a great game. These two teams kind of mirror each other. I do think that Atlanta has three edges in this game. A, they're at home. B, I think their running game is much better than Green Bay. And C, and this might be the biggest of them all, I think the Atlanta Falcons defense is a lot better than what we give them credit for. The last recent years, the defense hasn't been very notable and always overshadowed by the offense. But in the case here, Vic Beasley, second year out of Clemson, this guy has quietly become a beast. He's made the All-Pro team. He made the Pro Bowl team. I believe he was the leader in sacks. this guy here is becoming a leader on this defense at a very young age. And then it was an unsung hero, a signing on that team that I think that went under the radar, but has to be recognized. I don't know whose idea it was, but it was a great move. When you sign a guy like Dwight Freeney, a guy who's been doing it all his life over in the AFC for the Indianapolis Colts, you bring this guy on, and this is a guy that knows about disadvantages or not, adversity. This guy was an undersized defensive end. He's probably the originator of the hybrid defensive ends. Not the big guy, but just a quick guy and a strong guy. That got it done for years. And remember, he comes to this huddle or comes to this sideline with a Super Bowl ring. And, you hear me talk about it all the time in the NBA where are the veterans? Where the veteran leadership? Well, how great is it that when Vic Beasley comes off the field, whether it's a high five or just needs something in his ear, there's Dwight Freeney there. If you don't think that's a difference maker for a youngster growing up, then I don't know if you really know what veteran leadership is about. A guy like that is a field coach. A guy like that is an extension to the defensive coordinator or an extension to the line coach or just an extension to the linebacker coach. Guys like that, the signing flies under the radar. Some would say, man, he's washed up. Why are you getting this guy? Well, there's a reason why you're getting this guy. Just for veteran leadership. When you have a young team, you need to be able to have a player. Because sometimes it's easier for players to relate to other players than it is to the coach. Believe it or not, sometimes players don't want to hear what coaches have to say. But you get to a player and onto the sideline, and you got to remember this. For these players, when they are approached by these veterans, remember, maybe 6-7 years ago, maybe Vic Beasley was idolizing someone like a Dwight Freeney. And that's where the veteran leadership come in at is, wow, just not too long ago, I was wearing his jersey. Or not too long ago, I was rooting for him. Or I was cheering for him. Or I wanted to go to his college. I wanted to be just like him. And now I'm playing with him. And I'm not saying that's how Vic Beasley feels towards Dwight Freeney. But I'm saying that's how youngsters can look at a quality veteran that made a name for themselves, that is a recognizable figure, and so there's always going to be that respect factor. So I like that signing. Like I said, it's like having a coach on the field at time, and quietly this defense, led by Vic Beasley, is a lot better than what people give it credit for. And so I think with those three edges, I think Atlanta Falcons should win this game. I really think the Falcons are Super Bowl bound. I really do. I wouldn't have said this last week because I thought Dallas was going to go there. But I like the chances of Atlanta Falcons. But I'd be remiss or just absolutely possibly foolish if I don't recognize the talent and ability of Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers brings an element to the game that I don't know if anybody can do it better. But the way he can extend a play is phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. Now, he's not the only one. We've seen scramblers, John Elway, Steve Young. We see Big Ben extending plays. I mean, a lot of the quarterbacks do. Don't get me wrong. But not like this guy here, Aaron Rodgers. And here's the difference. He extends the play and his accuracy is just bananas. Just bananas. Listen, I think Atlanta pulls this win out and takes a trip to the Super Bowl. But it's not going to be easy. This Aaron Rodgers is going to make your defense work. And if the Falcons get out the gate a little bit slow, such as the Cowboys did, this game can be a lot closer than what it needs to be. I do think this game reaches up into the 30s. But I do think Atlanta pulls it up by at least 10 points. And I like something like a 38-27 31, 38, 27, somewhere around there. Atlanta should win by 10 points, but this game should be a good one. It really is. And this week is for all the marbles. It's for the trip to the Super Bowl. It's no next week. It's this week. It's no bad starts or slow starts or bad games, because there's no other game other than the Super Bowl. And to get to that game, you got to bring your A game this weekend. And it should be a fun-filled sport. I like Pittsburgh on the road. I like Atlanta to hold home field. But it ain't going to be easy against Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers as their confidence continue to grow. And here's the thing. Green Bay got some defenders that we know. It's not like we don't know who they are. It's just that they don't perform on a high level. Maybe they're overshadowed by their offense. But they do have some defensive players that we do know. So that should be a good weekend. We'll talk more about it as we lead up to it. That should be a good weekend of football. I believe both games are on Sunday. I believe the Falcons game is first. So should be a great set of games. All right. We'll talk more football as we get closer to the week. But I want to leave you with a thought here. With the loss to Green Bay by the Dallas Cowboys, when training camp opens up later on in the year for next season, is there a quarterback controversy? Does Tony Romo take the first snaps? Is Tony Romo going to be in a uniform, a Dallas Cowboy uniform? Is this now Dak Prescott's team? Will Jason Garrett return as the head coach? A lot of questions over there in Dallas. Dallas will, I'm going to tell you, Dallas will rule the offseason conversation for football. Regardless of who wins the Super Bowl, that winner of the Super Bowl will probably get 2 to 3 days, but Dallas will probably run the offseason conversation for the NFL. No doubt in my mind. So a lot of questions there with Dallas. We'll talk it up. We'll chop it up. We will chop it up about that, especially during that 2-week period between the conference championship game and the Super Bowl, because we'll have a lot of idle time. I don't know if anybody's interested in the Pro Bowl. I'm normally not. So we probably don't talk too much about that. So we'll talk about some off-season moves that might that could be a topic of conversation. All right, moving right along, though, going to the NBA. There was quite a few games on yesterday. One thing about the NBA, they've done this now for probably past 10, 15 years. They always honor the great late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by having a TNT bonanza of basketball games, or just a slew of basketball games on for that day, and then you'll hear excerpts from his speeches and players speaking out. So they do a very good job of doing that. But speaking of doing a very good job, what about that job that Golden State put on Cleveland last night? This one here was done by the second quarter. I mean, I'm not sure what was going on here. I don't know what Cleveland was thinking, or whatever the case is. There was reports prior to the game that Cleveland was thinking about resting their big three. They didn't have to rest them. They rest anyway. This game wasn't even close, guys. Cleveland, who usually plays pretty sound defense, gave up 41 points in the second quarter to Golden State. Golden State pretty much used the balance attack. They had 78 at the half, as they were winning 78 to think it was like 49 or something like that. This game wasn't even close. Golden State gets the win by 37 or 35 points, let's just say. Listen, an L's an L. It doesn't matter how much you lose. It's just an L. But, Golden State needed this game in the worst way against Cleveland, just from a psychic edge. Because think about it, they lost that tough game with the no call at the end of the game in Cleveland on Christmas Day. And then they lost 3 straight going back to the finals. So they had lost 4 straight. So I guess they needed this more for themselves, a psychic, to get some kind of psychic edge. And I'm going to tell you something. If Cleveland and Golden State should meet again, and it comes down to a game 7, there's no doubt in my mind Cleveland will not be able to beat Golden State and Golden State. And this is where I have to question the thought process of the Cleveland coaching staff and the Cleveland management brass. I think it's very important that Cleveland secure home court throughout the playoffs. They need to have Game 7 on their court opposed to going on the road and playing at Golden State. And what has happened here is that the resting that they do and causes the losing and maybe the rhythm to be off. Right now, they're only 2 games ahead of Toronto. Only 2 games ahead of Toronto. But they are trailing Golden State and even San Antonio, I believe. So if yesterday's any indication of what it would be facing a Game 7 in Golden State with Durant on the team, it's very important that they try to secure home court by winning as many games as they can and having Game 7 in Cleveland. Because yesterday just wasn't a good look. It wasn't a good look. Now, a L's a L, but for Golden State, they wanted to make a statement, and they did. They really did. They made a huge statement. Listen, there's a couple of teams that I want to acknowledge right now, especially in the East. I was hard on Atlanta Hawks early on in the season, and quite frankly, I'm not sure how they're getting it done. But they nipped my Knicks yesterday at the Garden and a 1 o'clock matinee. Dennis Schroeder hit a 3-pointer with like 22 seconds to go. The Knicks had 3 opportunities to hit game-winning shots with less than 10 seconds, failed to convert. As a result of it, the Knicks are now 6 games under 500 and really on the verge of being out of the playoff. On the verge of being out of the playoff. With these next 2 games, if they should lose to Boston and Washington and go 8 games under, this season is over. Currently, they sit in 11th place, and they're 3 games out of the 8th spot with slumping shoulders, heads down, culture lacking. It just doesn't look good. Just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. So, but the teams I want to recognize in the East for doing well, Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks has been on some kind of run. They're 7 games over 500. Right now, they're currently, in their last 10 games, they're the hottest team in basketball as far as the record goes. They're 9-1. Just playing some good ball. The Boston Celtics continue to show that they're going to be a formidable opponent. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. You got Washington that climbed up to the 5th spot, 2 games over 500. They've been 7-3 in their last 10 games. So there's been some teams that's been hot. And quite naturally out in the West, you got Golden State, San Antonio, the Clippers, and Houston. They've been all hot. But Washington has jumped into the playoff race, and they're not a pushover. You know, several years ago, we saw about Wall and Bill possibly being one of the best backcourts in the game. And quite frankly, they're playing that way right now. They're playing some strong basketball. They're to be recognized. That somehow or another they've gotten a cohesiveness there. You know, hey, they pretty much had the same squad going into this season from last season, but they did have a coaching change in Scott Brooks. And it looks like it's finally gelling and coming around together, and they're not going to be a pushover. At any game, at any given night, John Wall could look like the best point guard in the game. So this Washington team is to be recognized. They ought to be someone not to take lightly. Let's put it that way. They gained contribution from everywhere, but more importantly is their backcourt that's putting them together. And Atlanta Hawks, I'm not sure how's it getting done. I'm not the biggest Schroeder fan, but he's playing some good ball. Dwight is Dwight. Millsap is Millsap. They're getting contribution from the wing. Tim Hardaway Jr. is looking like a most improved player. They traded Kyle Korver, Brunner, Dunleavy. I'm not sure what has happened there. Was that a wash or what? But right now, again, they're 8-2 in the last 10 games, and they're playing some good ball. So keep an eye on Atlanta and then Boston. What can I say? I've said it here. I've talked to pundits on other sports shows like NBA Radio on Sirius. I shared with them. Isaiah Thomas is a top 5 MVP candidate. No doubt in my mind. As they beat who did they beat? They beat someone yesterday. I can't think of it. He had to get another 30-point game. It doesn't end with this guy. He just I don't know what to say. Pound for pound, he's the best guy in the game. So he's done well. But there's another team that's playing some good ball lately, and they're not a playoff team, but looks like the process and the plan is coming along over there in Philadelphia. They look like they're putting it together. To my surprise, they are putting it together. It's fun to watch. I'm pretty impressed with what I'm seeing. So keep an eye on Philly. They're playing some good ball, really good ball. This is a young team. They have some draft picks coming up. I don't know if they can acquire any free agents in the offseason that would be significant, but this is a team that maybe some of these picks is beginning to pan out as they blended a roster together, but they're not just a doormat anymore. They're playing some solid ball. They got a win last night. I'm trying to think, who did they beat last night? Milwaukee. They beat Milwaukee last night. Joel Embiid, he outdid Giannis. Embiid had 23 points. Giannis, I believe, had 22. But Philly won by about 5 or 7. Keep an eye on Philly, so trust the process then. All right. Before I go, just want to touch on this Carmelo thing. There was some reports surfacing about LeBron. He may get Melo. Listen, that ship is sailed. That ship has sailed. Kevin Love has now fit in, blended in nicely. There's no need to trade him, especially for Carmelo. That's not going to happen. If you think Carmelo's going to go there for some other players, first of all, that's not going to happen. There's really only one place that Carmelo can go to, and I don't know if Danny Ainge want to pull the trigger for him, but Boston is the only likely spot. I don't think Atlanta wants him. None of the teams out west like San Antonio, OKC, or any of those teams is going to trade for him. The Clippers, unless they're done with Blake Griffin, that's the only matchup that can work. Blake Griffin for Carmelo. But I doubt if you see that trade go down. And I don't even know if the Knicks want to do that, unless they're really trying to dump salary. But if they're going to trade Carmelo, they're looking for a draft pick. And keep in mind, these playoff teams, their draft picks is going to be late in the first round, which is going to do New York no good. Plain and simple. It's going to do them no good. All right? Boston makes the most sense if Danny Ainge is interested. Remember, you got to trade salary for salary. Okay? This is what happens. You got Amir Johnson. He makes $12 million a year. Jerebko, he makes $5 million. Jay Crowder, he makes 6.4, something of that sort. That gives you right there 17, 20. It gives you about $25 million, the way I look at it. Okay, 25.5, somewhere around there. Carmelo's making 24.6. Holiday's making $1 million. You throw that together, Holiday and Melo to Boston for Jerebko, Amir Johnson, Jay Crowder, and Brooklyn's first-round pick. That's a trade for New York that they will take all day. Amir Johnson, Jerebko, they got an expiring contract. That's $17 million off the books. Jay Crowder, they can hold on. He signed for another 3 years at a nice contract at about $6.5 million. They get Brooklyn's number 1 pick, first round pick, which should be easily a top 3 pick in the draft, along with their own pick. Now you can rebuild around KP if you want. If you choose to re-sign Derrick Rose, that you can. If not, I understand. But that's a trade package that may work for New York. Remember, in the NBA, you don't trade talent for talent. You trade money for money. That's what you trade, money for money. So that's just something to think about. I'm not in favor of trading Melo at all. I think Melo wants to be here. I think Phil needs to go. He's done a poor job surrounding Melo around talent. He did the panic trade with Derrick Rose. Nice name. Awful signing with Joakim Noah. But we'll see what happens going down the line. But you'll probably hear a lot of trade talk with Melo as we approach the trade deadline. But Melo has made it clear that he wants to be in New York. Hey, that's going to do it for today's edition of Chopping It Up with Ramel. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll see you back here in 24 hours. Peace and blessings.